stuff. And what could be more important, and particularly today when we feel like we're divided, so divided, well, you go, well, we're pretty divided back then, and we were pretty divided during the Vietnam. We were really divided during the Great Depression, and we were really, in America first, and we were really divided during the Civil War. So maybe we're always divided, and maybe the essence is not to just keep pointing and escalating it, but say, what do we share in common? Well, I'll tell you what we share in common. We share an origin story that on July 4th in 1776, very few countries know exactly when they were born, where, Philadelphia, when, July 4th, 1776, and what we hold these truths to be self-evident. That's our story.
What's our zodiac sign?
So we are Cancer. That's our zodiac sign. Yeah, July 4th. Although I read an article the other day that suggests that actually these borders of the signs might be shifting. So now I'm gonna put an asterisk next.
Okay. So America's a Cancer.
Cancer with an asterisk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Cancer is characterized as highly emotional, imaginative, and loyal.
There you go.
That's pretty American.
So maybe we ought to work on those things. Tenacious, sympathetic, creative, protective. That's pretty good.
Weaknesses are moodiness, insecurity, pessimism, and being easily hurt.
So there's
we're here. Dude.
This is us, right? This is the U.S. This is us.
This
right?
is us.
So this is we have. There was a cartoonist named Walt Kelly, and he had a cartoon series called Pogo Strip, and at one point the main character, is this odd animal figure, says, "We have met the enemy, and he is us," right? Because it's a variation on a military moment, and it's really true. Lincoln, as a young lawyer, not yet 29 years old, 28 years old, addresses the Young Men's Lyceum in Springfield, Illinois, and they're discussing foreign policy. And he says, "Whence shall we expect the approach of danger? Shall some transatlantic giant step the earth and crush us at a blow?" And then he answers his own question, "Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa could not by force take a drink in the Ohio River or make a track in the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. We are a nation of free men who will live forever or die by suicide."
Wow.
So there's our challenge, right? You want to get self-involved. You want to make your neighbor your enemy. You want to make lots of them. Then you are headed towards that self-destruction that Lincoln's talking about. You want to figure out what we share in common, this corny sort of civic virtue, civic energy that comes from the Declaration of Independence, like how you can work together to do it. And, a lot of people who are unbelievable citizens, it's like they go to the school board meeting. They participate in, I live in New England, and we have a town meeting, and sometimes the biggest decision is whether to buy a new pumper for the fire department. That's a big deal. That's civics. That's dealing with the stuff. And it's also saying, I've got to vote, and I have a responsibility as a citizenship to do it. And then we'll save our country. Then if you like the abstraction of disagreement and violence and all that sort of stuff, where suddenly just because your feed tells you one thing that somebody's an enemy, then you're lost.
Yes.
But if you look across the room and you say, I don't share in common that much with somebody who comes from Louisiana and lives in Tennessee. I was born in Brooklyn and grew up in Delaware and Michigan, and now I've lived in New England for the last 54 years. What would we have in common? We share a love of those ideas. We share a love of that process, the pursuit of happiness.
God. Yeah, it comes so much back to like your own integrity with yourself, And I think it's interesting whenever, like, as I'm watching your documentary, it's like you learn that, like, even as you were saying earlier, that this is like the first time that people thought of themselves as not under rule, but of like, it's almost like we were away at summer camp or something, and your imagination started to bloom.
That's right.
Like that's kind of the feeling that I get of those, of the first colonists here.
It's so exciting. There's a moment
I mean, it's blooming on somebody else's land as well. It's definitely blooming on Native Americans'
that
land.
we have
so I don't want to not say that.
So here's the deal. You ask any school kid, how were the colonists who threw the tea